Okay, so for the next two classes, we're pretty much going to be doing a Shark Tank-esque project, where in the first class, you're going to create your own project. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be coming up with a problem, maybe based on a passion that you have. So if you're interested in basketball, I don't know, science, you can sort of analyze a problem within that field, come up with a product or a solution to that problem. And then what you're going to do is you're going to create a presentation. And then next period, we're actually going to have people from the business department come in, and you guys are all going to give your pitches through this presentation that you create within the next two classes. And then you're going to receive feedback, you're going to receive questions, and if you want to, you could even follow through with it beyond this class. So as we go into the presentation, this is pretty much the template, and then right here is the Kickstart version of the template. So this is just a way of showing you how we've sort of implemented Kickstart into this template that we're showing you to give a real-world application before you guys get started. And then keep in mind that when you're creating this presentation, you're not necessarily creating it in the order that you're presenting it. So for example, product name, before you even go to the product name, you need to know what your product is and what the problem is that you're solving. So let's go to the next slide. Next slide will be the description of the project or the product. And pretty much you're just going to come up with a set of questions, and you're going to answer all the questions by putting bullet points. And you're going to give characteristics of the product, what the problem is that you're solving, what exactly it does, if it's a web app, if it's an app, if it's a physical product, or if it's a service. Then after that, and some of these only apply if, for example, in this case, if it's an app. So in this case, it's an iPhone project, so this would be going on the App Store. So if you're creating an app or a web app or a website, you would be using either this slide or the next slide. But of course, it's only if it applies. So if, let's say that you are creating an app or a website, what you would do is you'd sort of come up with your own idea of what the website homepage would look like, and then you would sort of insert that diagram right here just to show what it would look like and give an idea or an example. And here's pretty much the process. So to give you a better idea of what I mean by process, here's the Kickstart one, so development steps. So in the case of Kickstart, we created a business plan, then we created our website, which was our product, and then we went into marketing, so pretty much promoting ourselves, advertising, networking. So you guys can come up with your own plan, and I would recommend you split into 3 steps to prevent confusion or creating too complex of a plan. There you go, and then of course why, this is probably the most important slide. So this is where you're going to emphasize your problem. So for example, let's say you're creating an app that sort of solves a problem in labs where there's not enough safety in the lab and people are getting hurt, so you can pretty much give statistics, and then you can also give research quotes, credible information, sort of citing accidents that's happened in the lab, and then you're going to explain why there's a need for your app through this problem that you detect, and data. And then of course your data, tables, and then you don't really need to do this, it just sort of just depends on the project that you're doing, but in our case, we use this one, let's see, where is it? Right here, this is our data and tables slide, and pretty much what we do is we give information about our students because, once again, Kickstart is pretty much about teaching the students. So here we have country of origin, do you feel you learned a lot? So this is pretty much feedback that we receive. You guys don't necessarily have feedback. So this is like all flexible. You can pretty much put anything you want there. The important thing is that you just have as much information as possible within these 12 slides.
Go to the previous slide for Kickstart.
Sure.
Where you talk
I'm
about.
actually going to go through the whole thing right
Oh,
after
okay.
I'm done. So
Okay, great.
I'm just referring to that one because some of these are a little confusing if you don't actually have a direct comparison.
Yeah.
And then use charts to explain your ideas, some self-explanatory. I'll go into this later. And then big concept. This is pretty much just in your own words what exactly your product is. It's sort of like a slogan or a catchphrase. Yeah, technology. These are the resources that you're using. So let's say you're creating a product. You would be citing the materials, the manufacturing process, the distribution process, pretty much all the technicalities behind your own idea or project. And then let's take pictures. This is pretty much just coming up with a way to display your project, service, or idea. So this could honestly be anything. It could be a drawing, it could be a diagram, and it could even be a graphic art. And then once again, just as many pictures as possible so that you can give like a visual representation of what it is. And then this is more of the technical side. This is where you get the costs. So let's say you're doing a service, how much does it cost to pay the people to run your service? And then if it's a nonprofit, you consider the fact that you might not have to pay those people. And then what are the costs of having materials that you need to run your service? Pretty much all different variables that you're going to be dealing with.
Yeah, like for example, if you're doing something with an app, you have to take into consideration how much is it going to cost to design and develop and actually push the app out to the App Store, but also the cost to maintain the app. Because remember, every app store requires you to update their code all the time. And it might be 3, 4, 5 times a year where you're going to have to, every time the version of your software on your phone changes, you're gonna most likely have to update the coding for your app. So how much would it cost to bring in that app developer back in order to update your app? Those are the things you have to keep in mind.
Yes, so once again, these bullet points pretty much label everything that you could possibly split costs into. So labor, marketing, advertisement, and materials. Those are pretty much the four main costs that you'll be tackling and you have to do some research for. And then competitive analysis, this pretty much means other products that are somewhat similar are also tackling the same solution. So I'll explain this with Kickstart once they go into that, but it's pretty much just rivals that you could potentially have, or maybe other projects that you're taking inspiration from. But you have to make sure that your product is different from these competitors, and you need to explain why you're better than these competitors. And then management team, since you guys are in groups of 3 or 2, you're pretty much assigning jobs to each other. It's not as formalized as CIO, CFO, and COO, but you guys can pretty much say project leader, secretary, analyst. Pretty much you can designate your own jobs, or you can pretty much just have general jobs and not designate them at all. And then financial projections, this is pretty much your way of detecting revenue, costs, profits, locations. Pretty much what you're doing here is sort of breaking down quarters, which you don't have to do it exactly so formally, but like how are you going to make money back at once you spend all that money? And then this is just another way of giving visuals. You don't necessarily have to do this. And then this in general, just statistics behind your project. It can be anything you want. This is flexible. And then pretty much in the end, you give contact information, and then you can put anything in the end. So I'm just going to go over this one, which pretty much shows.
Can you maximize the Kickstart one?
Sure. Where's the maximum? There it is.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so this is the Kickstart presentation. Then here, of course, I have the title. I just put Kickstart, and then by the Kickstart team. But actually, you pick your own name. Oops. Where's the next slide option? Oh, there it is. Okay, so description of product, pretty much I just put a short description that sums up what we do. So we seek to advance computer science literacy by targeting underrepresented students from multiple public schools in Miami-Dade County. And then, of course, we specialize in computer science courses. And then we just give some visuals throughout just to make it more interesting or give an idea of where exactly we're heading or in direction.
Remember, next time, you're going to be presenting next time. Do not read in verbatim each slide.
Yeah.
Okay, there should not be a lot of information in terms of text in each slide, but you have to convey the idea. You need to be able to elaborate on each slide, but not in verbatim. Questions, comments? Okay.
Yeah, so with the exception of this slide where you sort of have to put the description there, pretty much you should be focusing on pictures, bullet points, or certain cues that you use to sort of discuss your product. And you should know enough about your product after you do your research, where you could just talk about it naturally without having to refer to the board. Then here, this is pretty much our web app example. As I told you before, you don't necessarily have to do an app or a website, but in our case, we are a website. So we pretty much just screenshotted our actual website. Of course, you don't have to have an actual website. You could just sort of come up with your own design on Google Drawings or some sort of Photoshop system. And then, of course, we have our desktop project. It's floridakickstart.org, and we're hosting it on GoDaddy.
You understand what he's saying, right? You don't necessarily have to create a web page for this project in addition to this presentation. But if you needed to have an online presence, which we strongly recommend, how would it look like? And then that image, screenshot it and put it inside the, the quote unquote monitor there.
Well, let's say it's like just, let's say it's just a product. You have to make the product.
You don't have to make the product for next time, but you need to be able to populate these slides with information about the product. Okay, and then you'll be able, in the Google Classroom, you'll see not only this Kickstart presentation so that you can get ideas of what to put in your presentation, but you'll also have the template that you could use where you can actually directly put information there, okay? And you're going to use that presentation to convey what your idea is. Okay, go ahead, Jay.
Okay, next slide. And then we also have an app. Once again, it might not apply for all of you, but pretty much we just put our logo there, and then we just said that we are using React Native, which is the coding language, and it's accessible on both iOS in the App Store and on the Android Google Play Store. Then development steps, this could be anything you want it to be, but pretty much we broke it down into 3 main components. That being the business plan, website, which is our actual product, and then marketing, which is pretty much getting ourselves out there. And then why, for this one we chose to take a different approach. You could put bullet points citing statistics, but what we decided to do was pretty much just give visual representation of the problem. So for example, this is a statistic from code.org that pretty much explains that there's a deficiency in computer literacy across the United States. And then this one shows the growth of the computer science industry nowadays.
This is important, guys. When you answer why the need for your idea, you don't necessarily have to give me a 3-minute explanation. You could just give us a graphic, right? You could give us some type of visual that conveys why the need for your idea. To me, this visual that Kickstart uses, this pie chart here, I think is very revealing, right? If you look at it carefully, guys, it says that for jobs for the next 25 years, about 60% of the jobs, regardless of what market you want to get into, is going to require some type of coding. So, I mean, how much more powerful an idea or an argument for coding, right? It doesn't get more powerful than that. A Bureau of Labor Statistics graphic on the need for coding in the curriculum. You know. Go ahead, Jake.
Yes. Next slide. Okay. And then tables to compare data. I pretty much went over this. In this case, we chose to do a survey on our students using a data analytics software called Tableau, where pretty much we analyze where our students are from and then how they felt about the course that they took. Next one. Technology, pretty much here we cited all the different resources that we use for Kickstart, so I'll just go over them quickly. Nearpod, which is what we use for our presentations. Flipgrid, pretty much an app that allows students to make reflections and record themselves based on certain topics that they learn. And then we have the IDEs, which is where you actually code in the first place. Google Forms for exams, feedback forms, and group activities, where we can actually receive information from the students. And then an app called Flubaroo, which instantly grades all of the students' responses and then provides analysis based on those responses. And then for team organization, we have Slack, Team Snap, and Tableau, pretty much just analyzing data and working with one another. Oops. Also, something to keep in mind is that on the last slide for technology, I only put software. You could also have hardware. So let's say you're using a 3D printer, you would put a 3D printer in for technology. And then for our...
Do you guys recognize those people? These were the kids from the last cohort. Okay. So remember, guys, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? Okay. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so pretty much for the pictures, we decided to take pictures of our actual classes and pretty much just inputted the pictures here to explain what our product is and how it looked like in the real world. Unlike us, you guys will probably more have like a drawing or a graphic that you create yourselves. So pretending it's a class or something, you would just draw a picture of something around this, since you wouldn't actually be able to do it within this time frame. Then costs, pretty much put free service nonprofit organization. We're based on volunteers, and we pretty much have all of the resources at our disposal at the school, so they're minimal costs. And then we are sponsored by Tableau, which is data analytics, so we don't have to pay for that. And then I would say our major cost is GoDaddy, which is where we host our website, and then purchasing the domain name for our own website. And then competitive analysis, we have Khan Academy and Code Academy. Pretty much what we do is we explain what Khan Academy is, what Code Academy is, both how we are different, which is extremely important, and then why we are better. So pretty much what you would do is you'd pretty much come up with similar competitors, and then you'd like sort of describe and give differences. So I would say our example for Khan Academy is that they're online and there's no interaction with the students, whereas here we're interacting with the students, and our product is both online and in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course you have to pay for them. And then here we pretty much just have the team. This is where we have our certain jobs split up. So we have lesson managers, web designers, and media marketers. I personally fall into the manager position, where I sort of manage the team and do logistics. But we also have web designers, so Sebastian, who sometimes teaches here, he's one of the web designers, and Ishan, who's not in this class, he does web design. And then we have media marketing, so we actually have somebody in charge of our social media accounts. And pretty much we work with her to post on social media and reach out to certain people or organizations. And then pretty much these are the numbers that I was explaining before. It could be anything you want. So we decided to put the amount of members. So right now I think we have 23 members contributing to Kickstart. And then we have 11 courses that we offer, and then in development for 2.5 years. Next slide. And then pretty much this is our last slide. We put all of our contact information.
And social media
That's
links,
the
etc.
conclusion.
Okay.
And then this is pretty much the slide we're going to start receiving questions. You don't necessarily need a slide for questions because you'll just be answering them on the spot.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Jake.
Question.
Round of applause, guys, for Jake. Thank you.